Unfortunately, Americans don't really ever think about what people in other countries are making of what's happening over here. But I think it's really important to know how the rest of the world sees us, but also how they feel about the impact that what America is doing is going to have on the rest of the world. So recently I had the opportunity to be in Italy, and started off in Milano. We were there for a concert, and one night on the way there, we took a cab, and the cab driver and I were having a sort of bit of a broken conversation because I don't speak Italian particularly well. But we were just chatting about where we're from. He asked us, where are you from in the States, New York? And then, kind of out of nowhere, he said, Trump, si or no? And I said, no. And that's when the conversation became about what is going on in America. And I, again, was very curious to know what he thought specifically. So I asked him the same question. He's like, no, he basically said Donald is horrible. And many, many people in Italy are desperately worried about what's happening. And I asked him what he thought of Italian president, Giorgia Meloni, who, as you may know, is very right-wing. She fashions herself in the mold of what in America would be considered a family values party, which means she is anti-choice, she is anti-LGBTQ plus rights, she is anti-immigrant virulently, and basically she would fit right into America's Republican Party right now. To complicate things even further, though, she also is a fascist. There's a direct line from Benito Mussolini to Giorgia Meloni in some ways. Some of her associations in the past are very, very troubling. And sort of makes you wonder how that could happen in a country that knows firsthand about how devastating fascism can be, because Italy played a non-insignificant role in the horrors of World War II. Italy was on the wrong side in the worst possible ways of that fight. So he's worried about Meloni, but again, Italy has much less influence and power than America, and he made the point that it's a European problem. It's a global problem. We are in a situation where the trend towards the right in Europe predates Donald. We look at Viktor Orban. We look at what's happened in Poland. We look at what's happened in Turkey. So, point well taken. And it is for similar reasons, some very different reasons, of course. The historical pull, which is in some ways unaccountable to me, towards fascism in Europe, even after everything that's happened. But much like here, Italians and Italy and other European countries have used immigration as a way to push their politics further to the right. So, a disturbing trend all around. And then my cab driver friend said that one of the things he's most alarmed about is because of the ways in which Donald Trump is essentially weakening American influence across the globe is China. And he essentially said, China is just sitting, waiting for an opportunity to take advantage of America's ceding all of its influence, of America's increasing isolationism, of America's increasingly alarming politics, of the fact that the American people continue to put into power the worst possible people at the worst possible time, while enacting policies that are already having significant deleterious effects on communities and in countries all over the place. Now, we already know that China is taking advantage of this. We already know this because China has been entering into trade deals with countries that Donald has threatened and abandoned and with whom he is engaged in unprovoked trade wars. We know this because Donald and Elon Musk destroyed agencies like USAID, which were instrumental in providing aid to countries around the world to combat diseases, to combat hunger, to help refugees from war-torn countries. In other words, and vitally importantly, Donald, Elon Musk, and the entirety of the Trump regime has decided that it is no longer America's role to use soft power to create goodwill around the world for our country and to create an openness in countries that may not have otherwise considered it to democracy. China has seen those openings, and China has already started filling those voids. So, very presciently, my cab driver friend recognized that as one of the most serious consequences of what is happening in America. Plus, of course, another thing that people in Italy are worried about is the leadership void. Right now, there is literally nobody in charge of what's happening in America. But that also means that America is not leading the rest of the world, which has in part been the role of this country since the end of World War II. So, what does that mean? How do you make the EU stronger when EU countries themselves are so at odds in such significant ways? How do you strengthen alliances among countries that are often at cross purposes when there is nobody able to or willing to, in the moment at least, to step up and lead the way? This is something that is on the minds of anybody over there who is paying attention. And here's the thing we need to remember that we often forget. People in other countries are paying attention to everything that goes on here, even if we're not. And honestly, that is to our shame. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.